प्रेजेंटेड बाय Ebix कैश। हर खुशी के लिए काफी है।
Hello and welcome to the Business Today show. I'm your host Udayan Mukherjee. If you ever found yourself in a really tight corner and you wanted someone from the Indian business sector to bat for your life, that would be my guest today because he's the quintessential fighter. Over the decades, he's overcome challenge after challenge to emerge as one of the most successful entrepreneurs of this generation. It gives me great pleasure to welcome Sunil Bharti Mittal to the Business Today show. Sunil, welcome and great to see you again.
Nice to see you too.
As I was saying, I often keep thinking that, if you were not in telecom, you would be a boxer or a wrestler. That fighting spirit, where did you get it from?
No, I think it comes out as, perhaps we are fighting all the time. And looks like we are surviving, fighting, surviving. Cycles have been such in our industry that one had to deftly maneuver the surroundings, the markets, the technologies. But I would say it's been a great effort of the team that we have been able to pull together each time when we were faced with adversities of proportions that are perhaps rarely seen in an entrepreneur's life. You do your business, you fight in the market, you lose market share, you gain market share, profits go up or down. But the life of Airtel has been very challenging, to say the least. And I'm glad that we are here today, much stronger, much sharper in our focus towards the customers, and a reasonably healthy balance sheet.
Well, you have come up on top, but on a bad day, do you sometimes still feel that, I could have chosen any sector and made a success of it? Why did I end up choosing telecom? Because, it seems like the challenges never go away.
It is true. But I think it'll be seen when you kind of reflect back, a life well lived, I guess everybody's dealt, certain cards, and all we can do is make the most of what has been dealt to us. I came into telecommunications way back in 1982, when it was unheard of private sector being in the telecom sector. It was a domain and really a bastion of public sector units, ITI factories producing equipment, and Department of Telecommunications running fixed line services. Phones were a rarity. If you got a phone out of town, that was a great deal of celebration. So I've really walked this journey right from the early days of telecom reforms. And this is what I've learned, and this is what I stuck with. We have done other businesses, but this has really been the mainstay.
And has it changed for the better after the recent relief package that we saw from the government, which you were rooting for as well? Or do you think it's only delayed the inevitable, which is the formation of a duopoly for the sector between you and Reliance?
Well, the Prime Minister said something very importantly, that this is a decisive government. And I think nothing demonstrates this more than the recent telecom package that has been unveiled. You require a very strong leader, you require a very strong and stable government to deal with a black swan event like the one India faced. We are 1.3 billion people, and we were staring at the prospect of India going down to two private sector operators. I think that would have been very bad outcome for the country. And I'm glad that this package was unveiled, and really there were two pillars of this package. One was administrative reforms, which we have been trying to get attention for the last 20-25 years. There were issues like storing CAF forms in paper form in warehouses. Airtel had 16 warehouses around the country, regular audits of papers, rats eating up those papers. We have went back and again, but never got the attention. So items like those, very small C-class items, have gone away. Bank guarantees have been rationalized. KYC issues have been rationalized. So a lot of, I would say, administrative reforms, which were in the area of ease of doing business, have been done, and they must be lauded. The second part was the financial side. There is an industry player which is not in a position to pay up the government dues and stress on the other dues of banks and markets. and something needed to be done. And I think the government came up with a very strong, big package of moratorium, and also the interest on that period of moratorium to be offered as an equity is, I would say, a rare event to save a industry which is vital for the future of our country. So I would say we should all celebrate what has happened here. We certainly, I personally, take a lot of comfort in the way government has moved and moved very quickly to save this sector from near duopoly, if I may say. So great deal of celebration. Will this now completely solve for the problem? Perhaps not. A few more steps are necessary. And I was very heartened to hear the telecom minister mention that this will be seen as the first round of reforms, and there are more to come. So we remain hopeful.
One of that income still not done piece of action could well be the one-time spectrum charge. I hear it's coming up on the 17th of November with the Supreme Court. Are you hopeful, hearing the telecom minister, that that too will be decided in your favor?
Well, it's hard to say. I mean, these are things which are very complicated and complex. I know which way this cookie crumbles. All I would say is there is a TDSAT judgment which has been challenged by the operators and challenged by the department, and some decision must be done soon. In the AGR matter, the only regret that I may say I would have is that I wish we had lost this case at the first instance. We would have paid some 2,000-3,000 crores and be done with it. Having won the case in TDSAT once and again through a reference back by the Supreme Court, partially again, we were, as you know, slammed by a massive amount of money which had to be paid, which was, to my mind, spine-breaking for one of the operators and crippling for even Airtel. Very large amounts had to be paid. So therefore, cases must be settled expeditiously, and cases which have gone in favor of the industry, if they turn around to go against us, the penalties, the interest of all these long 10, 12 years should then be seen in a more sympathetic way, to my mind. So in the case of OTSC, whatever decision has to be taken should be taken. But I may, through this medium, remind everyone that this was, government action at that time, where they woke up to a price discovered many years later to then charge it retrospectively. It's like going into a restaurant, you read the menu, place the order of the dishes, and then at the end of the meal, when you have had a good, nice meal, the restaurant says, no, we've changed our rates now, you have to pay a much higher price. This is as simple as that. But it's sub judice, it's in the courts now, the government has to take a decision, the courts have to hover on it. So we just bow our head and wait for the decision.
You spoke about 4G, but that's history now. 5G is coming up, and very soon you'll have to fork out many of those billions that you spoke about again for 5G spectrum. I mean, so far, the industry's response to 5G, the reserve prices have been very lukewarm. But by how much do you think they need to be shaved off for them to be meaningfully attractive to players like you? Because come February, you'll be on the auction table again.
Well, we are, Airtel has been taking a lead in 5G. We have tested networks ahead of other competitors. We have tied up with Tatas to do a domestic Indian stack. We are a part of the O-RAN alliance. We are triangling out the O-RAN networks. A lot of work is going on. Very silent work is going on in preparation for us to be in time ready for the 5G launches. Yes, spectrum auctions are coming. I'm glad the DOT has sent back the reference for the 5G spectrum back to TRAI. The life of the spectrum has been in future increased from 20 to 30 years. Spectrum usage charges for future have been taken away. And I'm just hoping that TRAI will finally see what can 5G do for our country, not in terms of raising more money for the exchequer, but the spin-off benefits it can have for the digital dream that our Prime Minister, our nation, has for, expectations they have from our industry. So to my mind, therefore, a sensible pricing recommendation for reserve price is most important. There are not too many buyers now. There are 3 private operators who have to participate in the auction. There's enough spectrum available. Unlike the wars of 2010 for spectrum, when we were much starved for getting spectrum, or the renewals that came up later on, which almost killed and decimated the industry, I think the situation is very different. If the spectrum pricing remains high, we will not be able to buy spectrum. We should not be buying expensive spectrum. We'd rather put more money into the networks, more fiber, more radios, more networks, go into rural areas, serve the communities, rather than buying expensive spectrum. So I'm hoping this time around, the TRA recommendations will be rational.
Lower by how much, Sunil? I mean, you speak candidly. I mean, there's no reason why you cannot say that the reserve price needs to be cut by 25%, 30%. Give me a number.
You know, it's hard for me to put a percentage or a amount, but it may be appropriate for me to give you an example. 700 megahertz, just a slug of 5 megahertz was put up in that band at 56,000 rupees all India spectrum. I protested, went around. I said, there's no rationale for a 700 band, 5 megahertz to be a price of this level. No, we will have enough demand. To cut a long story short, the auction failed for that band. It was put up arbitrarily at a lower amount of 40,000 crores or thereabouts, failed again put up at about 32,000, failed again. It'll probably come back onto the market at maybe 20,000 crores. So who has gained? We have lost 10 years for use of this vital, high-quality spectrum, which could have improved the quality of services. Customers would have benefited. Our networks would have got relief. Importantly, government would have got some money. This spectrum is a finite resource. I mean, it's sitting in the files of WPC, and it's not being used by anybody. So I hope the TRI does not make the same mistake that was done at that point in time, despite a lot of protestations by the industry.
What you say makes sense, Sunil, but the problem with your sector, and you said there are only 3 private players, so it's not like a field of 10 players. But within that 3-player market, one is severely hamstrung with cash. And the other one is looking like it's making the play because it's got tons of cash. And if one guy makes the play, then the others have to follow. You cannot take a unilateral call that either with tariffs or with spectrum auction that I will not participate once one player participates. Is that the problem with your sector right now? That, what makes economic sense on paper may not actually be working on the ground because of the aggression of one player?
I wouldn't have any cause of worry. I cannot see any reason why the outcome of the future spectrum recommendation of pricing should be any different other than enabling this digital dream. So let's remain hopeful.
Okay, let me talk to you about tariffs then. Because, a lot of people say that the relief measures, as you said yourself, have been very commendable, welcome. But for the third player to actually survive, you will need tariff increases. But is it possible for players like you to go about increasing tariffs, taking ARPUs to the level of 190, 200 that you've been talking about? Do you think Reliance Jio will allow that to happen? Or will it get stuck there?
Well, here again, this has been spoken about multiple times. We all know the Indian pricing is very, very low. Lower than most of the places in the world, but by far the lowest, I would say, even in the emerging markets. So, we are not seeking the $50 or $70 per month ARPU that the Western world enjoys, but let's see how far this can go. The fact is, it's an acknowledged position, and you're kind of confirming that in your question as you frame it, that the current tariff levels are unsustainable. How far this can go in this scheme of things will have to be seen. But yes, I would agree with you that especially for the weaker players, lower tariffs puts a very large burden on them to grow in the marketplace.
But forget tariff hikes. We hear Jio Next is coming up next month, and maybe they're offering a $50 smartphone. Are you ready for another level of battle like that?
We are ready for anything. We have seen worse, and I have no doubt, as far as we are concerned, we are ready to face any challenge.
Would you consider getting into the handset subsidy game? Because that's a different game. It's not a tariff game at all. If that is the root of the next challenge, is Airtel prepared to enter that field as well?
Well, we have, as you know, we have had very large-scale alliances with the device ecosystem, and that is how we approach the market. There are bundling which have been done for long years whenever there were needs in the market. We have built alliances. We have had, operator favoring SIM locks, which were required if you had to give some special packages and all that. I think all those options will be available to Airtel, Gopal and his team, and they will exercise their due, judgment as to what works better for them
Would you have done the same to the telecom market, what Mukesh Ambani is trying to do today? Because he's not concerned about niceties about, his focus seems to be just gaining market share, and he wants to end with maybe 70% market share. If you had access to the kind of capital he has, would you have played the game the same way?
It's an unfair question because everybody has their own style of functioning, and you can't fit one way of approach into the market to another. But I would say we have to commend what has been done by Jio in a short span of 10 years, 11 years. They have created a very large ecosystem for themselves. They have rolled out a nationwide network. Very large amounts of monies have been spent with determination, with a very strong and big vision. And it's very legitimate for them to seek more market share, and it's equally legitimate for us to ensure that we, have our due share of the market. So, and that's where we are today. I mean, the gap between us and Jio is pretty small, and we want to keep on fighting in the marketplace to have our own relevance.
Let me ask you a little bit about your digital investments, because these days it's all about unicorns and new unicorns coming up every week. I mean, you've tried to do a very innovative structure with Airtel Digital, but you've not monetized your digital assets in the way the market would have supported today. What's the eventual game plan? I mean, it looks like you have many potential unicorns embedded within Airtel Digital right now. What's your unlocking strategy?
Well, I think this is a silent revolution happening within Airtel. Our digital part of the business is making strides. And you're perhaps right, it's not unveiled to the market in terms of monetization or its valuations. But if you look at Wynk, our music portal, music offering, that is having a very, very high traction. Our other digital properties like IQ and cyber security packages and a variety of other things, Airtel Payment Bank, our digital bank, all of them are having very high degree of engagements and monthly active users and transacting users who are really active on the network. And all this is supporting the larger mothership Airtel, reducing its churn, satisfying its customers, making the customers prefer Airtel over other offerings in the marketplace. So I would say we will keep on building it the way we are currently building. Our alliances with Netflix, with Amazon, including with Google and Facebook, etc., all very robust. And we keep using our plugs of digital play with all these fanciful offerings into the marketplace from time to time. So I personally believe that at the appropriate time, we will separately unveil our digital revenues. And I can only say we would be surprising the market on a pleasant side when they see what has been achieved within the digital part of Airtel.
Will you monetize them piece by piece? And in what kind of a time frame are we talking about?
Well, I'm not sure we'll monetize it because in the end, monetization vehicle is up Airtel, which is a parent company. And that's a listed share. And if that is a currency that we have to use from time to time, that is available to us. So I don't think so it's necessary for us to get people as investors into digital, which is called Airtel Digital Limited, but that option remains.
Speaking of digital, it brings me to your mentorship of your son, Kavin Mittal. Were you disappointed, and was he disappointed when Hike Messenger had to be stopped? It did not play out quite as how you may have expected or he may have expected it to?
Well, I think first of all, mentorship of parents really is a silent, ongoing process right from childhood. And children pick up what's happening in the family atmosphere, what's happening during the evenings, conversations, what's happening during the time parents spends at home. So this shaping up really is as they say, is a seductive, silent process which you don't even know when it's happening. So I don't have a process of mentoring any of my children in the strictest formal mentoring scheme of things. Hike, as you know, had a glorious run for a period of time and was valued as a unicorn, raised a lot of capital, created a lot of impact, and to fight the mights of WhatsApp or Facebook Messenger, I think a lot of credit goes to him. He's a very sharp, high quality mind, understands technology 100x better than I do. And he has pivoted his company to something else now. I keep on occasionally hearing from him whenever I meet him. I mean, he lives a separate life away from the large family enterprises. And he's now into something else in his company called Hike. And let's see how the new pivot moves. He remains confident. And the good thing is that these children are growing into young, energetic adults with a lot of experience behind them in how to deal with the world. The experience of Hike Messenger going through a glorious run and then having to struggle is I would say, a lesson you don't learn in business school, and that is invaluable to my mind.
And what's next for you, Sunil? Because you're in your mid-60s right now. Is there still time to squeeze in another roll of the dice, something other than telecom? One big last bet?
You can ask this question every few years, and the answer would be, yeah, I'm probably close to that point, and then you do something else. I mean, right now, we were busy on two fronts. One was stabilizing Airtel, which was extremely important. And I personally feel we are in a good place there. The other is something we picked up in the midst of the high wave of pandemic in the UK called OneWeb, which is a company I was associated with right at the beginning along with other founders, which went into Chapter 11, and we, along with the UK government, then took that company out of Chapter 11 and have revived it. And the last 12 months, that company is now close to achieving its dream of serving the world through a very high quality, low latency broadband connectivity from the space. And by April, May next year, we will have full scale global telecom network in space with 648 satellites. And that's keeping me fairly busy. I mean, I'm an executive chairman in that company, also the largest shareholder. So that is really keeping us, personally me as well, very busy. Shravin, my other son, Kavin's twin brother, is the lead director engaging from Bharti's shareholding side into OneWeb. So he's taking a big role there. And I'm personally spending a lot of time in organizing that company. And I think that is coming out very well. We will be having a very, very important contribution to the space industry, importantly, connectivity for those deprived of any chance of getting connectivity in the next 10, 20 years, be that in the deserts or in the Himalayas or deep in the forests, or indeed the maritime and aviation. All this is going to change rapidly in terms of connectivity through the next year onwards.
So nothing non-telecom. I read somewhere you were talking about infrastructure or something like that. That's all who you are. You don't have time for anything else.
No, I would say, people like us are restless. We always like to look at opportunities and keep ourselves gainfully employed and engaged. So in the national, divestment pipeline, there are some interesting projects which will shape up, and we'll keep a close eye on them. And if there is something interesting, that would be a place for us to focus on. But there's a lot more to follow. The pipeline is a long pipeline, and we'll remain focused.
Sunil, always great talking to you, and I wish you the best for the rest of your journey. Thank you very much for joining in today.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
That was Sunil Mittal. We shall return next week, of course, with another remarkable individual from the world of business. Till then, stay safe, keep watching.